it was scary. It was intimidating. I mean, coming from guys, like I said, come from Jersey, there's very, very little, racism, to the least. But then you go down to Tennessee, and here you got these three black guys proclaiming hate white people in the middle of the South. And, man, the heat was legit. You could feel it. It was tangible. I mean, it's not like people booed you because you were the bad guy. These people wanted us dead, literally. It was scary some of the times you go into some of these small little towns in Kentucky and, not know what was waiting for you. You go into some of these small Georgia towns and, we embraced it. I loved being the heel. But I got to tell you, there were times when it was like, Jimmy would say, get in your car and don't stop driving until you get back to Knoxville. And he damn sure wouldn't stop. You don't stop for gas. You don't stop for food because you never know what's going to happen. So, we would make sure the car was gassed up on the way into town. We'd have snacks in the car, and we'd drive 200 or 300 miles without stopping, just going straight back because you never know if someone was following you. You never know if someone would recognize you at a gas station. Just get in the car and drive. And it was, like I said, it was scary at times. You could literally turn and look and see the hate in these people's eyes. And, part of it was color. Part of it was wrestling was taken very legit in the South part of the United States. And it's a cultural thing where a lot of people have grown up in wrestling. So when you're the bad guy and you're beating up on, Ricky and Robert, the Rock and Roll Express, who are the prototypical baby faces, boy, that heat was legit heat. I've never felt anything like that ever in my life.
Yeah, and then what about New Jack? I mean, my gosh, so if you felt the heat and you guys are driving from one town to the next, pedal to the metal, getting straight out of Dodge, New Jack is the one really at the helm there, and just some of those promos are just, you could say they're, quote, ahead of their time, but just in that time frame, 1994, 1995, we didn't see anything like that going on in pro wrestling, let alone in a territory like Smoky Mountain. But did you sometimes maybe scratch your head at some of the things that New Jack was saying just because, you did want to survive and get to that next town?
It amazes me the promos that Jack could cut and the things that he would say and the way he would say things. And, yeah, it's like when you didn't think he could top what he was going to say, the next promo was like, oh, my God, he just said that. But then when you're in the character, you're embracing it because it's going to generate that heat. You're putting butts in the seat because at the end of the day, those people showed up and paid to see us lose. And every time we didn't, it pissed them off even more. And Jack kept turning the heat up on them. And, you're right. Jack was the leader of it. And, he spoke. He was the mouthpiece. And Jack got a lot more heat generated towards Jack individually, more so than the Gangstas as a whole. But, Jack loved it and he embraced it. He loved it.
What's the one promo that you think about when you think about the Gangstas and Smoky Mountain Wrestling and you think about really trying to fight for your life and survive? Is there one specific promo or match or moment where you really thought that it blurred the line between, what is professional wrestling and what is the reality of somebody's well-being?
There was one TV I remember we beat up Ricky and Robert and threw them over the top rope with a noose around their neck, so it looked like we lynched them. So, yeah, that kind of got real close to blurring the lines of reality and life and art. Yeah, that was. I remember watching that back, going, I can't believe I did that.
Some of the greatest stuff. I mean, remember getting exposed to that for the first time, and you were like, this literally could be on every week and be the most compelling television, on the national level. But when you think about the national level and you think about Smoky Mountain Wrestling, dear Lord, you think about these names of like yourself, and we think about the Headbangers, and then Kane coming out of there, and Al Snow, and Candido, and Balls, all these great people to come from Smoky Mountain Wrestling to become almost like the original feeder to the WWF. Do you look at that locker room and think about the faces that were back there and say, wow, this really was quite possibly the greatest collection of rookies, cast-offs, guys transitioning in and out of both the major companies and quite possibly being the most impressive locker room and roster that any professional wrestling company's ever had at one time?
Without a doubt, it was the deepest, most talented roster that I've ever seen. A collection of talent, and you forgot guys like Lance Storm and Chris Jericho there at the same time. So I mean, this roster was just deep, and yeah, to me, unofficially, it was probably the first developmental territory because Vince had a pipeline for all this talent, and he could just handpick what he wanted to. He picked Al Snow and Glenn Jacobs Kane went up, and guys like the Dirty White Boy and Brian Lee, and these guys were. It was like having a giant toy chest of talented toys, and anybody could just Vince could just go out. Okay, I need a 6'3" guy right now. Boom, and there it was. You didn't have to look very far, and with knowing that Jim Cornette was the mastermind behind it, Vince knew that talent was getting schooled properly on TV and how to work and how to get over with a crowd and how to, captivate an audience. So that was stuff he didn't have to worry about when it came to going up to his national level. So I by far believe Smoky Mountain was ahead of his time, and I think if Smoky Mountain were to start today, it would be one of the most impressive independents out there right now today.